So hi, Arnie. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, Francisca.
And this is Arnie Cardillo, who is the big cheese behind Live Oak Media, who's been in
That's
the
my wife. That's my wife.
Live Oak Media has been publishing children's audiobooks for how many years now, Arnie?
Deborah and I just celebrated our 23rd year at Live Oak Media in July.
Wow, that's great.
Hard to believe.
And I know you're always busy, so thank you for taking time from all of that production to meet with us today.
That's really my pleasure. Thanks.
So 23 years. That means that there are people out there who are having second generation Live Oak Media listeners.
Wow, that makes me feel old.
What's the first thing that you always want people to know about audiobooks and kids?
Yeah. Well, there probably are a couple of things. I want them to know that children's audiobooks don't discourage reading or in any way impede the reading process. I know this is an old story, but when you talk to a 2, 3, or 4-year-old, and you'll know that the young children learn to listen, speak, and understand way before they learn to read. But I feel that these kind of activities are the foundation to their ability to read, and none of these activities exist in isolation. Is the point? They are all part of this thing called language, and language is a very dynamic process. Each activity informs and engages the others and enhances the others rather than impede them. I think that's important to know. I mean, if you want to be specific about audiobook listening, if you want me to go on, I can.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear you talk about it.
I think about professional actors and narrators and how skilled they are at their craft. Children talk like the people who talk to them. These people are their speech models, so to speak, and kids pattern their speech, at least initially, after the most important speech models in their life, their caregivers. And speaking is a very multifaceted form of expression. It's fluid and changing, it's dynamic and nuanced. We raise and lower our voice. We speed up the pace of our reading and slow it down. We change the intensity and pitch of our voice. And we also emphasize certain words over others, and all with the intention of communicating our thoughts and our feelings in the best way possible. If you listen to skilled narrators and actors, you'll hear that they're very conscious of these modes of expression, these ways of speaking, and they know how to use them to convey the meaning of the text. Moreover, they're very proficient at giving each character in a story a personality and a distinct voice. Sorry, I'm just fudging a little. This all goes to say that an actor's narration can be a very effective way of providing kids with excellent models of speech that sharpen their language skills, teach them how to communicate better, how to read with expression, and how to develop their own reading voice and character voices in their heads.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I learned from a young person about audiobooks that I hadn't tumbled to on my own. She was someone who was an English language learner coming from a non-European language in which there is no punctuation. Mm-hmm. And it was listening to audiobooks that helped her understand what those funny marks actually do, what each of them does.
Yeah. And when you go into a recording session, you have to respect those marks, because yes, that's the way we get the meaning of things, is the pauses, and and the pregnant pauses sometimes. Mm-hmm. And we, when I go into the editing process, I get very much involved with spacing. And I can go through a book a number of times, and just to open this space a little or that space a little, or create a pregnant pause so that the information can be absorbed.
Mhm.
That's so much a part of the, to me, that's so much a part of the recording, the production process.
Right. And that's what makes audiobooks such a great and wonderful addition to all the other ways that we communicate and all the other ways we perform too.
Yes.
Because communication is itself a kind of performance.
It's a performance, yeah.
So this is something
that was a great question, by the way.
this is something
great point that you made. Great point that you made. Yeah.
I've been wanting to ask you for a while, and that is you and Live Oak have won tons and tons and tons of awards over the years. And just for instance, Live Oak won the very first Odyssey Award back in 2008, which is 12 years ago. And it was, in fact, an Own Voices book called Jazz. But that was before Own Voices existed as a hashtag even. So obviously you've got some really big commitment to the idea that people need to hear books from a variety of experiences, cultural experiences, lived experiences of both the authors and the narrators. So how did you figure all that out before Own Voices bubbled up?
Yeah, I mean, 10 to 20 years ago, book publishers and writers started to produce more diverse and multicultural books. So I think, you know, we didn't create them, but we gravitated toward them because we felt that we just felt that they were perfect for the audio format. When we select one, it's sort of natural for us. We think, I don't know how to say it, you know, we produce an Own Voices audiobook. When we do produce it, we learn so much about people and their cultural histories, you know, their traditions and their experiences. And it's only natural to want to produce this kind of title and share it with young readers and listeners.
Yeah, it's really impressive how even titles which are hardly new, I'm thinking of things like your Harlem title. You managed
here in Harlem.
Here in Harlem.
I have to say that was my favorite production, and it took months to put together.
I can imagine. And for those of you who are watching this and you're not familiar with Here in Harlem, it's full cast indeed. 13 actors or 9?
Yeah, well, the book itself by Walter Dean Myers has about 80 poems, and each of the poems sort of captures a life in Harlem. And you get to hear the characters speak, and you have everyone from intellectuals to junkies to prostitutes. You have people across the spectrum of inhabitants. And yeah, so I worked with Robin Miles on this little. She and I cast it, and we came up with all these different voices that we thought were appropriate for these different types of characters. Now, 80 poems, you have to sort of, you know, narrators have to do, you know, more than one poem. Well, there may have been one or two that we thought were perfect one poem, but didn't fit the rest of the story or the poems that were there. So yeah, and again, you know, recording it was a challenge in that getting all these different people to come in and out. Was hard to coordinate logistically, but I just, you know, I remember one thing that I'll never forget is that a number of the narrators coming in, and they were all African-American narrators, a number of them coming in would stop in the middle of a poem and say, boy, this guy can write. And you know, he was, you know, he's passed on, but he was one of the greatest writers for children's books or young adult books and all books. that I ever came across. And then once all the recordings were made, it literally took months to piece it all together and to add different sound elements to make it more real and believable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, we actually won what I considered one of the most prestigious awards in the industry. We won the audiobook of the audiobook production of the year from the Audio Publishers Association, and you know, that title went up against, you know, hundreds of titles for all different ages, for all the major publishers in the country. So I mean, that was very rewarding. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing all that too, because it certainly makes lives richer everywhere that you do.
Yeah.
So what can we expect to see coming from Live Oak?
Well, we have, you know, at the end of this month, we're coming out with a book from Lee and Lowe called it's called Rise. It's From Caged Bird to Poet of the People. It's about Maya Angelou. And so we're very excited about that. We're finishing up the production and did a lot of research, heard a lot of her interviews and her reciting her poem, and we're going to weave some of that into the production. In early 2021, we have another sort of Own Voices book about Hawaiian culture called Ohana, which means family. Yeah, that's we're also, you know, we also have a special interest in producing recordings about musicians and different musical traditions and cultures. And we recently produced a recording about a Mexican composer, Esquivel, and 2 recordings about New Orleans' favorite son and trumpet player, Troy Trombone Shorty Andrews. And I think we're going to be producing in the spring of 2021 a book about Bob Marley and his music.
Wow.
So that's some of the things that we have on the
So
table.
you're busy these days.
Yeah, it's you know, it's always busy because productions have so many facets to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're doing more than one at a time, so it's a juggling. It's a juggling act.
Do you listen to audiobooks yourself? Not ones that you're working on, but what are they?
No, it's too much like work. I don't want to. You know, see, I don't even listen to other publishers' children's audiobook recordings. I mean, I don't want to be influenced by their work one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather focus on what I do and you know, do that. So no, I don't usually. When I do, though, I have to say I do occasionally. And when I do, I'm just like any other avid audiobook listener. I get sucked into the story, and oh, sorry, this is home recording with our dog. Yeah, I get sucked into the recording, and I'll sit in the driveway and finish a chapter. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Arnie. We better leave off now.
Yeah,
so that you
good
can take care
idea.
of the dog.
Thanks for having me.
So much.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.